What if the constant stress and conflict in your world was deliberately created to make you think this is normal? What if the God you were told to pray to wasn't the true source at all, but a fake, a false architect, weaving the very prison you were never meant to escape? Since a young age, you've felt it, that quiet sense of not belonging, that something in this world is fundamentally wrong. No matter how perfectly it's painted, it never truly fits the idea of divine perfection they taught you to believe in. What if the voice in your head telling you this is just how things are isn't even yours? The Gnostics had a name for this deception: Saturn, the demiurge, the architect and manipulator of the physical realm, a false god posing as the true source of pure divinity, a craftsman of illusion, obsessed with control, weaving a world designed to keep the soul asleep. But here's what they've tried desperately to hide from you. This being's power exists only through your ignorance, through your separation from your divine spark, through your sleep. To maintain this, the demiurge has built reality as a vast maze, repeating itself lifetime after lifetime, until you learn to see it. Prepare yourself as we pull back the veil on forbidden history and ancient writings that expose this false god, writings the church and empires tried to bury. We'll follow the whispers of wise teachers and Gnostics who dared to speak against the cosmic lie and uncover why humanity fell under the grip of this deceptive creator, one that has held power over the earth for thousands of years. To understand the demiurge, you have to step outside the official history and into a shadowed archive carefully hidden from human eyes. Long before modern religion, there were groups and mystery schools scattered across Egypt, Greece, Persia, and the Middle East. These weren't mere curiosities of the ancient world. They were guardians of an ancient and dangerous knowledge that the visible world was not the highest reality, and that its so-called God was not the ultimate source. The word demiurge comes from the ancient Greek demiurgos, meaning craftsman or builder. In Plato's Timaeus, the demiurge was a neutral figure, a cosmic artisan shaping chaos into order. But in Gnosticism, this figure became something far more disturbing: a flawed, arrogant ruler who mistook its own limited power for absolute rule. They named it Yaldabaoth, the blind god, the lion-faced serpent, the architect of the physical world, and the architect of the prison that comes with it. But here's a layer many have overlooked. The demiurge has long been symbolically linked to Saturn, known to the ancients as Kronos, the keeper of time. In its harshest, most evil aspect, Saturn is the enforcer of limits, the measurer of your days, the one who locks spirit into form and says, "You go no further." Unlike the modern interpretations that paint Saturn as a wise teacher, this ancient understanding reveals something far more sinister. Saturn operates as the cosmic prison warden, using time itself as chains. It doesn't guide or teach. It binds and constrains. Through the relentless ticking of the clock, it hypnotizes consciousness into believing that linear time is the only reality, that aging and decay are natural laws rather than imposed limitations. This Saturn force feeds on repetition, on the grinding cycles that wear down the soul's memory of its true nature. Every birthday that passes, every deadline that looms, every moment of running out of time strengthens its grip. It's the force behind the saying, "Time heals all wounds," not because time truly heals, but because it makes you forget, makes you accept, makes you surrender to its slow, methodical process of spiritual amnesia. And here's where the deception reaches its peak. Throughout history, Saturn's energy has been nourished through countless acts of devotion, ritual, and bloodshed. In medieval times, every major religion unknowingly bowed to the same false deity, the creator of this decaying material realm. Whether Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, they all prayed to the architect of limitation, the builder of this flawed world. The medieval world was drenched in worship of the same false creator. Every cathedral built, every crusade fought, every holy war waged, all of it fed the same hungry throne. The irony is profound. While believers thought they fought for different gods, they were all serving the demiurge, the false architect who crafted this prison of matter and time. But here's what the Gnostics understood that others missed. This material world was never meant to last. It was designed to collapse the very instant it was created. The demiurge's creation is inherently unstable, a cosmic mistake that should have dissolved immediately. Yet through human worship and belief, we've been unknowingly feeding it energy, keeping this dying realm artificially alive. This is why, in certain secret traditions, Saturn is called the Lord of the Rings. Not just the planetary rings of ice and stone, but the rings of containment. The cycles that repeat lifetime after lifetime. The cages that feel so ancient, you've forgotten they were even built. And so, the demiurge isn't just an abstract concept from dusty scriptures. It's a force that has been measured in the stars, carved into our myths, texts, and kept alive through ritual for thousands of years. A force that counts every second, binds every soul to the clock, and calls that bondage creation. Picture awakening inside a vast containment facility where the barriers are completely transparent. A holding cell where every experience seems ordinary and natural. You accept it all because you've never experienced true freedom. Like a captive animal that's forgotten the wild exists. This is the false reality the demiurge has constructed. A world that was meant to crumble into nothingness the moment it was formed, yet persists through our collective unconscious participation. The Gnostics described the demiurge as both an entity and a system. It's not merely a single being in some cosmic throne room. It's the architect of an entire operating framework. Think of it like a false operating system installed over your consciousness, running in the background, dictating what you can perceive, think, and even imagine. And here's where the Saturn-like nature of the demiurge becomes clear. Saturn, Kronos, is the keeper of time, but also the master of breakdown. In the language of science, breakdown is the drift toward disorder. But in the spiritual prison of the demiurge, it works in reverse. Not toward chaos, but toward perfect hardening. When consciousness flows freely, it can transform infinitely. When it becomes crystallized, it gets trapped in form. The demiurge employs this as a spiritual technology, gradually thickening the flow of awareness until it becomes solid, immobile, permanent. Each repeated cycle, birth, struggle, distraction, death, builds another layer of crystallization. Every unquestioned belief becomes another prison wall. This is how a realm destined for instant collapse has managed to persist for millennia. The demiurge's creation was fundamentally flawed from its inception. Like a house built on quicksand, it should have immediately sunk back into the void. But through our participation, our belief, our energy, we've become the foundation stones, keeping this decaying world intact. In physical terms, this is turning into matter. In spiritual terms, it's hardening, the sealing of the soul into form so deeply that it forgets it was ever light. The prison is made of patterns, cycles that repeat, the seasons of your life, the rise and fall of empires, even the spiritual lessons that seem to return in different disguises. This is breakdown at work, reducing the infinite possibilities of being to a predictable set of loops. The archons, its agents, are the enforcers of this order. They don't just keep the loops running, they strengthen the crystal structure itself, ensuring that no matter how far you roam within the pattern, you never truly leave it. The demiurge cannot be conquered through direct confrontation. Attempting to battle it using its own systems, within its own domain, by its own regulations, is futile. This material dimension serves as its territory of influence, and every conflict within this space ultimately strengthens its control. True liberation requires transcending its sphere of influence entirely, not through combat, but through awakening to what you truly are. Here's what most people miss entirely. The demiurge doesn't only exist out there as some cosmic force. It has a mirror within you. On the vast scale, it's the architect of the crystalline structure that holds matter and time in place. But intimately, it manifests as your ego, the organizing principle that structures reality through labels, roles, fears, and attachments. When you over-identify with that ego, believing you are the mask rather than the awareness wearing it, you serve the demiurge from within. The Gnostics understood this perfectly. They spoke of the divine spark, that indestructible fragment of source consciousness still glowing within you. Your ego is merely the crust around it, the hardened shell formed through years of programming, wounds, and survival strategies. The first act of liberation is radical observation. Notice when thoughts arise from fear, competition, validation, or the need to prove yourself. These aren't your soul speaking. They're the voice of the internal jailer. The more you observe without automatically obeying, the weaker its grip becomes. Begin each day connecting with that spark in your chest, not as metaphor, but as living reality. The one part of you the demiurge cannot touch. From this space, practice non-alignment with the false values that define this realm: status, possessions, external approval. Both the outer demiurge and your inner ego repeat the same lie in different voices, but your power lies in refusing to take that bait. The goal isn't destroying the ego, but stopping it from being your ruler. Let it become what it was meant to be: a navigation tool, not the driving force. This is what the Gnostics meant by being in the world, but not of it. You can interact with the systems of the false creator without letting them define who you are. But here's the subtle trap most awakening seekers fall into. Enlightenment itself can become an ego identity. The moment you cling to, "I am the awakened one," the demiurge simply wears a new mask and continues the same control patterns. From a psychological perspective, this framework addresses something profound about human conditioning. What we call self is largely a collection of habitual neural patterns, many formed through trauma and social programming. The demiurge serves as a powerful metaphor for any system that gains authority by convincing us we are less than we actually are, what we might call spiritual colonization, making us worship our own limitations. You've felt the whispers before, that sense that the God we've been taught to worship may not be the true source at all, that suffering in this realm isn't divine will, but the byproduct of a flawed architect attempting to copy perfection. The Gnostics sacrificed everything to preserve this knowledge. Even a single awakened consciousness can begin unraveling the entire deception, because the demiurge's authority rests completely on collective amnesia. When you remember your true nature, its influence dissolves. Here's the key they left us. This realm operates through lords of karma, not mystical justice, but the weight of past patterns that keep you cycling through the same reactions and limitations. Dharma is different. It's the open space of present moment awareness, unshackled by conditioning. When you operate from Dharma rather than karmic programming, you step outside the Archon's reach entirely. The cosmic machinery stalls because it has no script to play against sovereign consciousness. One powerful practice: reverse the gaze. Instead of looking outward and reacting, turn awareness inward. Ask, who is aware of these thoughts and experiences? Rest in that awareness itself. From this space, both outer systems of control and your inner ego prison lose their voice. The question transforms from, how do I defeat the demiurge? To, will I choose present sovereignty over past conditioning? This material realm, according to Gnostic cosmology, was designed to self-destruct upon creation. Every moment it continues existing is an unnatural prolonging of a cosmic error. Your awakening doesn't just free you. It helps restore natural order, allowing this false world to finally dissolve as it was always meant to do. Each time you select present awareness over automatic reaction, you transmit that frequency throughout the collective consciousness field, becoming a beacon illuminating the exit for others still trapped in the crystalline maze. Freedom doesn't come from escaping somewhere else. It comes from remembering that the real prison was never the world itself, but the belief that you were only the mask. You already carry the key. The only question remaining, will you use it?